Views and opinions. I'm Romeo.
Hey there, I'm Brooke.
I'm Demi. And on today's report, Cedric Richmond, the senior advisor to the president and director of public engagement for the White House, is here to discuss President Biden's American Jobs Plan.
And HBCU Digest founding editor Jared Carter is back with his latest reporting, and he's going to break down what the president's education plan means for HBCUs.
That is true. We have all of that and so much more. It is our voice and our truth. So let's talk about it.
Good afternoon. Here are your headlines for the day. President Biden's $2 trillion infrastructure plan is a topic of national discussion. The president calls the American Jobs Plan an investment in our country. He says it will not only modernize the infrastructure of our country, but also create more jobs and infuse more dollars into local economies. But hey, we are not going to break this all down alone. Biden, senior White House advisor and White House director of public engagement, Cedric Richmond, is here to talk about what this means for Black Americans. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Well, Brooke, thank you for having me again.
And congratulations on the promotion.
I can tell you one thing, it's a lot more work.
I can imagine. Talk to us a little bit about that. How has that transition been going from Congress to the White House?
Well, it's a lot more structured. I mean, we start the day early with an 8 o'clock meeting every morning. We meet all day on Saturdays. Sunday's probably the only day where we don't have many meetings. But the good part of it is you're really able to solve some problems and you're really able to shape the future of the country. And so when you have a president, which we have now in President Biden, who cares more about other people and the well-being of the country than he cares about himself or anything else, it makes it very easy for us to produce. But it is a very structured process and a lot of work.
Okay, well, can you explain to our soulmates what it means to be director of the Office of Public Engagement for the White House?
Well, it's almost, I think President Obama described it as the front door to the White House. We think of it more in lines of managing the relationships and making sure that we reach out to people to let them know what we're doing in their particular area, to make sure we're talking to advocates, make sure we're talking to different stakeholders. And so it is a lot of outreach, a lot of communication, but it's also a lot of listening and making sure that people understand they have a real voice here and that their suggestions actually are not falling on deaf ears. And so we do a lot of engagement, anywhere from businesses and CEOs to formerly incarcerated people to gun violence prevention groups, and you name it, we have a relationship with them.
It is such a pleasure to have you here on FOXSOUL's Black Report. Now, given the data of employment and unemployment in this country, can you tell us where you see African Americans?
Look, we see African Americans, particularly like we see everybody else. I mean, really just busting their rear end to keep a roof over their head, clothes on their back, and food on the table. If you go back to April of last year, African American unemployment was somewhere around 16.7%. Today we have it down under 10%, but that's far, far too high. And we know the pain and the struggles that go along with unemployment, which was why we extended unemployment benefits. It's why we enhanced the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit and the American Rescue Plan, because we're trying to help those families that, one, have kept this country afloat during the pandemic, but two, those that are getting hit by the hard financial crisis that was created because of the pandemic. So everything we've done with an eye towards racial equity, and even in our assistance to African-American families and families in general. We sent over 160 million checks out to households because we know how bad people were hurting. And now it's time for us to continue to create jobs and move in that direction.
Director, the president has been traveling the country promoting the American Jobs Plan. What are the benefits of the president's plan for the Black community? You know, that's what people come to this show to find out.
Well, first of all, we're going to create jobs. Second, we're going to invest in cleaning up the environment and making sure that we are planning for generations to come and dealing with the existential crisis of climate change. And then third, we're going to invest in the care economy, because we know that disproportionately minorities work in the care economy. And we're going to make sure that when you start talking about healthcare workers and daycare workers and childcare, a lot of them are women. Most of them are underpaid. And two, we just have never invested in it. So we're going to put real investment there. In climate, we're going to go in and we're going to remove all lead pipes in this country, the ones that are delivering water to over 400,000 homes, daycares, schools. And so we're looking at it from a very comprehensive approach in terms of righting all of the wrongs of the past, but at the same time, creating jobs. And here's the interesting numbers. 95% of the jobs that are created by the American Jobs Plan don't require a 4-year degree. 90% of them don't require a 2-year degree. So what we want to do is, one, improve the infrastructure in this country, but two, help people that are willing to wake up and go to work every day, find a job that pays a living wage so that they can support a family.
Director, once again, we thank you for joining us here on Fox Soul's Black Report. With this new infrastructure bill, how does the Biden administration plan to help small and emerging businesses?
Another excellent question. We have dedicated $30 billion to invest in our small and disadvantaged businesses across the country. We hope to leverage that 5-to-1, so that would give us $150 billion to put into small businesses. The other thing we're doing is we're challenging corporations and everyone else to make sure they're intentional about using Black and brown businesses in this country. So it's not just access to capital, which we're working on, but it's also access to contracts, and to make sure that those businesses have an opportunity to fill those contracts, to provide goods and services, increase their employment. And we're going to do everything we can from the Small Business Administration and MBDA to make sure that we're supporting those small businesses with micro lending, technical assistance, or whatever they may need in terms to prosper.
I'd like to go back to unemployment for a bit, if that's okay. Can you tell us, what does the White House plan to do as Republican states are attempting to take away federal unemployment benefits over the next couple of months?
Look, Demi, thanks for the question. It's a real question because Republican governors are taking it away. And what I remind people of all the time is we should not act like we know what's going on in the lives of our citizens. And their theory is that, oh, people are making more money staying at home than they would by working. First of all, if you believe that, it means you don't understand the American spirit. You don't understand people. But two, you don't know what people do to survive. You don't know if they work, if they teach during the day, or if they work at a restaurant during the day, and then at night they work at, driving Uber or Lyft, or whether they're a bouncer at a nightclub, whether they DJ, whether they do childcare services or work at a hospital. You don't know what people are doing to survive. And so I just think that we should not belittle and think so little of the American people in this country. And so I just think that Republican governors should look at the data and the stats, but we're creating jobs and we want people to certainly go back to work. But we're still at the point where vaccinations just opened up to everybody in the country on the 19th. It still takes about a month or 6 or 7 weeks to get fully vaccinated. So you should not be cutting unemployment benefits before people are fully vaccinated to go back to a safe work environment. So we've said all along that we would follow the science, and then we put our head down and worked as hard as we could to provide vaccines, to create jobs and do all of those things. And we want people back to work. We want schools open. We want daycare centers open, because we know that a lot of parents, especially women, are making a hard choice between virtual schooling their children and entering the workplace. So we want schools open, we want childcare centers open, and we want people back to work.
Can you tell our soulmates about the Biden administration's plan to close the broadband access gap for communities of color?
We put money in the an American Rescue Plan so that we could provide emergency broadband assistance. We know how it affects families. We just talked about virtual learning. Those that are struggling are being left further behind through no fault of their own. Those in rural America are being left behind, whether it's telemedicine, whether it's virtual schooling, or whether it's just the ability to search for goods and products over the internet. And so what we did is we provided funds to make sure that we gave up to $50 a month in assistance so that people could make sure that they have broadband. And then in this American Jobs Bill, we put $100 million in there to make sure that we get the actual broadband, the wiring and everything to every community, every household in this country, because that's the infrastructure of tomorrow. We're not talking about our grandparents' infrastructure. We're talking about an infrastructure for the future, one that will allow us to compete, one that will allow us to win, and broadband is the backbone of that.
Okay, well, let's switch to HBCUs right now. The funding of HBCUs from a state level has been in question for decades. What does the Biden administration plan to do to support and make HBCUs a priority?
Well, I can tell you this, they are a priority, a big priority in this administration. I'm an HBCU graduate. Shout out to Morehouse College, where my brother and I went. But we put $5 billion in for HBCUs to help them invest in the schools. If you look at HBCUs and look at the product that they're producing without the same amount of funding to produce it with, it's an incredible job they're doing creating our teachers, our doctors, our lawyers, and everyone else in the STEM field. So we put $5 billion in. There's another $2 billion to help with STEM education in those fields there, because we know the shortage of African Americans in the healthcare industry and other places. But we're going to continue to invest in our historically Black colleges and universities because we believe that they're key to the future. And we know that they disproportionately lift our young African American students up and provide them with the best opportunity to succeed.
All right, so we're approaching the one-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. I have two questions for you. First is, what are the odds of the Justice for George Floyd policing bill passing? And also, what is the White House's position on the bill?
The White House supports the bill. The president has said it a number of times. In fact, he said it in the joint address to Congress that he supported the bill, and he hoped that the Senate and the House could agree on a bill and get it to his desk so that he could sign it. He told the Floyd family that he supports the legislation. And so the good news is that you still have a bipartisan group of senators and Republicans working on it. You have Representative Karen Bass, you have Senator Cory Booker, you have Representative Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Tim Scott. And so it's a bipartisan effort. They are working very hard on it, and we're here to give them as much support as they need. We know how important it is. And as an African-American male with an African-American son, it's something we worry about. We have to make sure that the interactions between police and the communities that they police improves. And so we are doing everything we can to provide that support to the bipartisan, bicameral group of representatives and senators that are working on it.
Thank you so much, Director Cedric Richmond, for joining us today, coming back on the show. We will have you back. You know, I know you're busy, but anytime. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. The New York Attorney General's office said Tuesday that it's conducting a criminal investigation into former President Donald Trump's business empire, expanding what had previously been a civil probe. A spokesman for New York Attorney General Letitia James said, "We have informed the Trump Organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature. We are now actively investigating the Trump Organization in a criminal capacity, along with the Manhattan DA." The Attorney General notified the Trump Organization of this change in recent months. A source familiar with the matter told ABC News it's not immediately clear on what practical effects the notification has because any criminal charges could be brought by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which declined to comment. So, of course, Trump's response to this, he's calling it witch hunt. He's saying there's nothing more corrupt than an investigation that is in desperate search of a crime. What are you defending if you haven't done anything wrong, right? And I just think there's so many things. He's left a paper trail of things he's done wrong, and something has to stick before he gets the opportunity to get back in office, and that's how I feel about it.
It's so interesting because there's still, no telling what this will even end up with, right? What this will even mean, what we will actually see from this at the end of this investigation. But his reaction is fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, Brooks, same thing that I was thinking. I'm just interested to see how this is going to end. But, it was really just amazing. It made me feel a great way to know that there was a black woman leading this charge. That made me feel very empowered. And also, I was thinking that she's in New York where there are tons of other things going on. I'm just happy that she kept the foot on the gas and is, pushing all the way through with this. So we're going to be keeping you guys updated on how this turns out for sure. All right, so on Tuesday, the Senate narrowly voted to proceed with the confirmation of Kristen Clarke, President Biden's nominee to lead the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division over stiff Republican opposition. The Senate approved a procedural motion by a 50-48 margin to break a tied committee vote over Clarke's nomination, which divided 11-11 on party lines last week. Yesterday, the floor vote broke mostly along partisan lines as well, with just one Republican, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, voting in favor. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, who has crossed party lines to support other Biden nominees, was absent. The procedural vote allows the Senate to move forward with a final confirmation vote, which could come within the next week. There was a hashtag Confirm Clarke has been trending online a lot because a lot of senators have been voicing their support for her. Love to see this. She will also be the first black woman to fill this role. And just a few here. I like Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, his tweet. He said, hashtag Kristen Clarke. I'm proud to voice my support for her to lead the DOJ Civil Rights Division. Senator Mazie Hirono, she's of Hawaii. She put hashtag Confirm Clarke. Senator Dick Durbin, everyone has been voicing their support. So I'm really happy to see, and I love to see black women moving to the top and just, taking those next steps. We love to see it.
Yeah. And look at what's going on nationally. She's ready to get to work. This has been her life's work, so she is ready to get to work at this level.
Absolutely.
Can't wait. All right, U.S. Congresswoman Val Demings plans to run for the U.S. Senate. She wants to unseat Republican Senator Marco Rubio next year rather than pursue a run for governor. Axios is reporting this latest development, citing information from an advisor and another source familiar with her plans. Rubio has won 2 elections in the battleground state, including one that followed his failed attempt to win the 2016 GOP presidential nomination. As for Demings, she, of course, was on President Biden's shortlist for vice president and has become a household name for Democrats. She was first elected to her U.S. congressional seat in 2016 after serving as Orlando's first woman police chief. Demings also served as a House manager during former President Trump's first impeachment and currently sits on the House Intelligence, Judiciary, and Homeland Security committees. So, we talk about shortlist for vice president. You all remember, this wasn't too long ago. You remember, we learned a lot of information, I think a lot of people did nationally, about so many powerful black women. Yeah. And everyone is wondering, okay, well, what happens next? What happens next? You think about Keisha Lance Bottoms. Well, what's happening next? What's happening next for Val Demings? And she already got a good job. So it'll be interesting. Political reports, this is a quote from an article, it says, as a black woman and law enforcement officer, her background made her uniquely situated to be a national Democratic spokesperson for policing and race issues.
Yeah, in this situation, some say it's going to be an uphill battle for her to make this happen, but I think she's ready for it. Look at her track record. Look at what she's done in the past up to this point as far as her journey, her career. So I think a lot of people should be pulling for her and will be pulling for her. So I look forward to that.
Absolutely. I think that Stacey Abrams made a lot of people feel empowered, a lot of black women feel empowered that you can flip a state. And so I think that was, one thing that's probably in the back of her mind, like, hey, if my good sis can do it, so can I. But Romeo, you made a great point, which is where I wanted to go. I was looking online to see what a lot of Floridians had to say about this. And so I did a deep dive here. So it seems like it's split in 3 different ways. There were a lot of people that were like, hey, I'm really happy that there's a big name to go up against him. Val Demings is a well-known and respected name, and so they were happy about that. There was another set of Floridians that felt like, Romeo, like you said, it's going to be an uphill battle. They were saying that there's a large Latino white population as well as older Cubans. I kept reading about older Cubans in Florida that might not vote for her. And so they were saying with that she's going to need to spend more time with the Hispanic and Cuban community to pretty much, debunk the myths, give them more facts, give them truths that the Republicans have given them to make them, trust and believe in her. And so, like we said, we're going to definitely keep you guys posted on this, but it is going to be an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, well, she did it in Central Florida. Like, she put a stamp on there and then becoming the first black female police chief in Atlanta. Like you said earlier, Brooke, she has these accomplishments. She understands what it takes to win. So I think she's ready for the challenge.
Yes, if she did it before, she can do it again.